let's be honest, who hasn't dreamed of building a time machine? It feels like pure science fiction, right? But what if I told you the blueprints are kind of hidden within the actual laws of physics? Today, we're not just going to ask if it's possible, we're going to open the instruction manual. So, let's just get right to it. The million-dollar question. Is time travel possible? The answer from physics is a little weird. It's a big, loud yes and no. And figuring out that split is the key to, well, everything. And this is the split right here. Traveling to the future? That's not a theory, that's a fact. It's proven, it's been measured, we've actually done it. But traveling to the past? Whoa, that's where things get complicated. We're talking a giant maze of theoretical puzzles, paradoxes, and some of the toughest problems in all of science. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the secret loopholes Einstein himself opened up. Then, we'll check out the actual blueprints for a time machine. After that, we gotta face the paradoxes and all the problems, see if the universe fights back with its own cosmic police. And then finally, we'll talk about the one time machine we know for a fact we can build. All right, first stop, Einstein's secret loopholes. Now, what's so wild about this is that Einstein's masterpiece, general relativity, the theory that runs the whole universe, doesn't actually say no to traveling to the past. In fact, it kind of cracks the door right open. So, the most important thing to get your head around is this. Einstein realized that space and time aren't two different things. They're woven together into a single fabric, space-time. And big things like planets and stars don't pull on you with gravity, they actually bend and warp that fabric, and we're all just following the curves. Okay, and here's the loophole. When you start solving Einstein's equations, some really strange answers pop out. They're called exotic solutions. And what they describe are possible paths through space-time that could literally loop back and connect with their own past. So the math says it could happen. But the big question is, does this weird mathematical possibility actually exist out there in the real world? So let's pretend for a second. Let's say those weird mathematical quirks are real. What would you even build with them? Well, let's take a look at the actual blueprints. If you wanted to visit the past, these are the schematics that fall right out of Einstein's own equations. You've definitely heard of this one, right? The wormhole. You might know it as an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Think of space-time like a big sheet of paper. To get from one point to another, you have to travel all the way across it. But a wormhole, it's like punching a hole through the paper and creating a tunnel. It's a shortcut not just through space, but through time itself. Now for the super technical term for what a time machine would actually create, a closed time-like curve, or a CTC. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a path, a literal loop in space-time. If you could get on one of these paths, you'd feel like you're moving forward in time, but you'd eventually end up right back where and when you started. All right, we've got the blueprints, a wormhole, a CTC, sounds cool, but now it's time for a major reality check. Because trying to actually build one of these things means slamming headfirst into some of the biggest problems in all of physics, not to mention a few logical nightmares. And here is the most famous nightmare of them all, the grandfather paradox. It's just a perfect little loop of chaos, right? You build a machine, go back, and stop your grandparents from meeting. That means you're never born. But if you were never born, then who on earth went back in time to stop them? It just breaks your brain. And it's a huge problem for the idea of changing the past. So beyond the paradoxes, there's a physical problem, a massive one. To make any of these blueprints work, to hold open a wormhole, to create that time loop, you need a very special ingredient. It's called exotic matter. And this isn't just rare stuff, it's stuff with properties that seem to defy the laws of physics, like having negative energy or even negative mass. This exotic matter is basically the ultimate showstopper. We have never, ever found it just lying around in nature. You'd need it to act like a kind of anti-gravity scaffolding to stop a wormhole from instantly collapsing in on itself. Now, we have seen teeny tiny fleeting hints of it in the weird quantum world, but the amount you'd need for a human-sized time machine is just astronomical. It seems totally impossible to get. All of this brings us to one of the coolest, most elegant ideas about why we're not constantly bumping into tourists from the future. What if the universe has its own security system? This was an idea from the brilliant mind of Stephen Hawking. Hawking called his idea the chronology protection conjecture, and he had this really playful way of describing it. He said it was like the universe has a chronology protection agency, a sort of cosmic police force that stops people from creating these time loops, basically to make sure history doesn't get all scrambled up. So how would this police force even work? Well, Hawking's theory was that quantum physics itself would be the enforcer. You see, on the quantum level, particles pop in and out of existence all the time. He calculated that if you tried to build a time machine, those particles would get caught in an infinite loop inside it, creating a feedback surge of energy so powerful, so immense, it would vaporize the machine instantly, right before it could ever work. Okay, so the past seems to be off limits. It's protected by paradoxes, impossible materials, and maybe even a cosmic police force. But remember what we said at the very beginning. Let's talk about the time machine that is 100% real. This is your ticket to the future. The secret here is Einstein's other world-changing theory, special relativity. And what it tells us is that time isn't this constant, ticking clock for everyone. It's relative. And there's a trade-off. The faster you blast through space, the slower you travel through time.
And listen, this isn't just a theory, it's engineering. It's happening right now. Astronauts on the International Space Station are moving so fast, they're aging just a tiny bit slower than the rest of us. Even the GPS in your phone has to constantly correct for this, because time for the satellites up in orbit is literally ticking faster than it is for us down here on Earth. It's real-life time travel in action every single day.
And look at this. This might look like something from a sci-fi movie, but this is the actual math, the time dilation formula the engineers use to make sure your GPS works. Without constantly accounting for this real-world time travel, your GPS would be useless in just a couple of days. And if you want to see this pushed to its absolute limit, get a load of this. At the Large Hadron Collider, they accelerate tiny protons to almost the speed of light. For those protons, time slows down by a factor of nearly 7,000. That means for every single hour they experience, almost a full year passes for the scientists watching them. It's absolutely insane. So at the end of the day, we have the recipe. Building a time machine to the future isn't a physics problem anymore. It's an engineering one. The instructions are pretty simple, really. Build a spaceship that can go incredibly, ridiculously fast. Fly around for a bit, and when you come back to Earth, you'll have barely aged while everyone and everything you left behind will be years or even centuries in the future. And that leaves us with one final kind of mind-bending thought. We know we can travel to the future, but the past seems to be fiercely guarded by the very laws of physics. So you have to wonder, if the universe goes to such incredible lengths to stop us from changing what's already happened, what exactly is it trying so hard to protect?